Up with KREM begins now.
7 o'clock on your Thursday morning, and millions of Americans are still waiting on their stimulus checks. This morning we take a closer look at why you might be seeing a delay and what you can do. Health officials have been telling us for weeks also now that we need to flatten the curve. So is what we're doing working? We will break it down for you this morning. We are tracking breaking news this morning as well. The Labor Department reports another 5.2 million Americans filed for unemployment in the last week. This brings the total number of claims that we've seen in the past 4 months to roughly 22 million people overall. Now, reports show that more than 11,000 people in Washington lost their jobs in March. Experts do say that April unemployment reports will give us a better idea as workers are catching up on a backlog of applications. 7:01 this morning. I welcome the rest of our Up with KREM team here to us this morning. Jen York working from home. Jen, how is your Thursday morning shaping up so far?
Great so far, just as comfy as I was yesterday.
I heard you've got a pretty mean sourdough starter that's getting going right now.
Yeah, I've had a starter going for a couple days. It's very potent. So yeah, working to get the oven all warmed up and hopefully have a nice loaf here soon.
Boy, that sounds amazing. I love the smell of fresh bread, so I'm a little bit envious of what your situation's going to be like over the next few weeks. Jen, of course, will join us with the latest surrounding the coronavirus throughout the end of the Northwest. Dana Marie, how's your Thursday shaping up so far?
My Thursday's shaping up pretty good. I made some cookies last night with my roommates. Didn't have vanilla, so we used almond extract, and didn't have butter. All we had was vegan butter, and it turned out pretty good. So I say our day's starting off pretty well. Can't wait to have some of those cookies after the show. It's like our lunchtime at, what, 7 o'clock?
Basically. I love how inventive your cookies have been over the last few days. You said you salted some of them yesterday. That sounds fantastic.
Yes,
Yeah.
Put a little salt on it. I mean, we're just throwing all the variables out there when we really don't have a lot to work with.
And of course, Dana Marie will join us in just a little bit to talk more about some of the unemployment situation and questions ongoing during the coronavirus outbreak. But we do want to begin this morning with Evan, who has some pretty good news with our Thursday forecast, especially for people that love seeing only the suns on your forecast, right?
Yeah, I mean, because there's a lot more to come. I mean, it's a much different forecast than what we saw yesterday with shower activity, clouds, wind, all that kind of stuff. A beautiful spring-like forecast instead. That's what we're switching it out for today. So enjoy it while you can. Get outside, take a breath of fresh air if you have a porch or a patio, or if you want to go hop onto one of the local trails that are still open, then do so and just practice that social distancing. Temperatures are warming up today to the upper 50s. It is still going to be a bit chilly at times than it is right now, so make sure to keep a jacket on hand. But once the rays start coming into that sun, you're not going to stop it. It's going to feel beautiful, and it can sometimes feel warmer than that high of 56 once we really start to see that sun beaming in. Satellite radar, just to give you a reminder of the dry skies that we have and what a difference day makes. This is what we've got right now. Dry conditions out there. We're not expecting much to come through for the afternoon or for tomorrow. The changes that we do see come about toward the weekend, where we could see just a little bit of cloud cover and drizzle move in. Otherwise, though, the middle of next week is kind of that timetable for more unsettled weather. For now, I'll send things over to you, Jen.
All right, Evan, thank you. I'm enjoying all the beautiful forecasts that you have for us. I'm looking forward to all the warm weather.
Oh, it's going to be nice, so enjoy it while you can.
Absolutely. All right, Evan, thank you so much. Live here in my kitchen this morning, getting to some headlines that you need to know this morning. Here are 3 things that you need to know to start your Thursday morning. Idaho stay-at-home order is now extended to the end of the month. Governor Brad Little also ordered all out-of-state travelers to Idaho to quarantine themselves for 14 days. There is an exception, of course, for essential workers and those who live in one state and work in another. During his announcement, Little also addressed pushback from elected officials.
But I'm sensitive to the input that I have from other places. But again, I got to do what I got to do for the good of the people of Idaho.
The order will be reevaluated at the end of the month. Essential services like grocery stores, pharmacies, and medical facilities will still remain open. Other essential services include hardware stores, hotels, and maintenance worker groups. People can still order takeout from restaurants. However, on-site dining is banned. Bars, gyms, and salons will also remain closed. Until the order ends, Idaho residents are directed to continue using social distancing, to wear masks in public, and to avoid public gatherings. This morning, the Labor Department reports another 5.2 million Americans filed for unemployment in the last week. We just heard that report from Joshua. Those numbers just came out within the past hour. That brings the total claims in the past 4 months to roughly 22 million. Now, reports show more than 11,000 people in Washington lost their jobs in March. And experts say April unemployment reports are going to give us a better idea of what our local situation looks like as workers catch up on a backlog of applications. Well, Washington Governor Jay Inslee signed an emergency order to release some inmates early. It will apply to about 1,000 inmates with nonviolent convictions. The state says they were all set to be released in less than 8 months. It's an effort to slow the spread of coronavirus after health leaders say 8 inmates across the state tested positive for the virus. Well, social distancing and flattening the curve has become part of our regular vocabulary. But is it really working? Nicole Hernandez is joining us now to tell us what our situation looks like now and if our efforts are working to flattening the curve. Good morning, Nicole.
Yeah, good morning, Jen. So I did a bunch of research yesterday and figured out exactly what the curves look like for us nationally, here locally, our states, Idaho and Washington, and then Spokane County. So let's go ahead and take a look at what all those different ones look like. So we're going to start with the United States. You can see the United States is really still in that upwards curve, still every single day. The cases increasing pretty dramatically. But when we look locally, we actually have a much better looking graph in all 3 of our local areas. So first off, Washington State, you can see we had that initial uptick in the cases, and then we've been able to slightly flatten out that curve, which is good. That's what we've been doing that social distancing for. And our Spokane County graph looks pretty similar. So we have some cases that we had and then nothing, and then some cases and then nothing again. And then we really saw our uptick in cases go up, and then again that flattening of the curve. But something different about Spokane County is that we have here April 9th and 10th a little uptick in the cases again. But the difference here is that we don't really know exactly whether or not this uptick in cases is like a margin of error or whether or not it's an actual new trend, because from the 10th until now, the data from those days is not in quite yet. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. And so for these bottom 2 graphs, another thing to remember is that Washington State got hit early and we were able to peak earlier than most other places. So that's why we were really been able to see that curve flatten in a lot of our local areas in Washington. And then as for Idaho, Idaho is completely different because Idaho just really doesn't have many cases in general. So they have a very subtle curve. You're not even seeing the bell curve that you're seeing with the other graphs because they just didn't have many cases at all. And one thing to remember with Idaho is that they had their first case much later. So the social distancing started with them before really many cases even happened there. So they were able to get control of that pretty easily. And I mean, that's just the ideal curve right there, really not one at all. So all of this info came from the CDC for the United States and then the state public health departments for these other graphs. And it's really important to note that even though these graphs look good, they look promising, we're seeing that curve flatten like we've been saying this whole time, that doesn't mean we can just go out and start acting like normal, because if we did that, experts say that we would definitely see that curve just go right back up again and spike again just because of the nature of the coronavirus. So we need to still all do our part and make sure we're staying home and social distancing and only going out for essential things, because we want to make sure that these curves stay how they are, looking flatter, and we want to really get that United States curve to start to flatten as well. I'm in Spokane. I'm Nicole Hernandez.
Thank you very much for that perspective, Nicole. I know sometimes we feel like we're just in it and it's tough to sort of see it all as one big picture, so we appreciate it this morning. 7:09 this morning, time to once again check in with our own Dana Marie McNichol, who is answering some of your important unemployment questions today.
That's right, Joshua. A lot of you have brought us questions surrounding unemployment, and this morning I'm bringing you the facts and breaking it all down. So a question that we recently got into our newsroom was, I have already applied and have unemployment. When will I see the extra $600 per week? Well, it's a great question. In Washington and Idaho, unemployed workers could begin seeing the extra $600 in their checking account in their account for coronavirus relief by the end of April. This money will be handed out for 4 months. People currently filing or receiving benefits under the regular unemployment insurance program already qualify for the additional funds. Now, recipients will then receive retroactive payments from the time the legislation went into effect on March 29th for both the weekly benefit amount and the additional $600 per week. Now, the other extra $600 will only last through July 25th if Congress does not extend the program. Now, another question we're seeing is, I work for myself, do I qualify for unemployment? Well, in Washington, the unemployment office is working to accept claims for workers who are normally ineligible for state benefits. That's including those who are self-employed or contract employees. Now, after a system update takes place over the weekend, those who are self-employed in Washington should be able to apply for benefits beginning on Sunday. It often takes 7 to 10 days for new applicants to receive their first checks. Now, over in Idaho, it will take a bit more time. According to the department, Idaho officials estimate that these payments will likely go out in May. Now, for other questions you may have surrounding unemployment, send them to us at 509-448-2000. And today at noon, we're talking about our special show called Your Money, Your Future. And we want to know your questions about jobs available in our community right now and what the job market could look like post-quarantine. Text us your questions surrounding that topic at 448-2000 as well, and you can see those answered today in our show at noon. Joshua?
Thank you very much, Dana Marie. Coming up on 7:12 this morning on the dot, as a matter of fact. And with the coronavirus pandemic, a lot of people are out of work, as we have mentioned. And coming up after the break, we want to bring you information about jobs that are hiring both short-term and long-term.